Hello. So recently I was playing Minecraft and my keyboard suddenly stopped working, which actually happened by the way, and that made me think, hey, would it be possible to beat Minecraft without moving? Well, let's find out. But first, let's set the rules for this challenge. We will have to unbind the movement keys and the jump button, preventing us from using them. And that's basically it. Everything else is allowed, we just can't use the movement inputs. Alright, now that the rules are set, let's get going. And before being able to do anything, we will have to get some wood. Help? Yeah, the first problem we're going to have is getting to the tree. In theory, we could create new worlds until we spawn right next to a tree, but that would be a cheap solution. So instead, let's use a sheep solution. Hey, you, please, help me. Come on, come on, come on, yes! Alright, push me. Let's go. We're almost there. Come back, please. Oh, well, I'll take that. Okay, we got it. Alright, now we can break the tree, and now that we have wood, we can craft the most useful item in this challenge, the boat. Since we can't use the directional inputs, the only way we have to move for now is to place a boat, enter it, and leave it. And we can already use a trick here to make our life easier. If we enter and exit a boat normally, we leave in front of the boat, and depending on how the boat breaks, we're sometimes unable to grab it back, which is an issue. However, if we place a block in front of the boat before leaving it, our character will land directly on top of the boat, allowing us to get the boat back 100% of the time. Okay, now that we spent way too much time to get a single tree, the night is going to fall relatively soon, so we quickly get 3 wool to make a bed, and we skip the night. Then we will need quite a bit of wood, so we cut a bunch of trees. Hey! And we also get a bit of food. Okay, now we can move on to the next step in our journey, mining. And the first thing we need is a bit of iron, so we dig down a bit and we start making some tunnels. After a while we find a small cave where we first get rid of any danger, and then we find a bunch of iron and even some gold, so we'll be able to make a bit of equipment. Oh, and we also kill an enderman on the way. That could be useful later on. Okay, now that we have the iron, we can move to the next step, diamonds. Since our movement options are very limited, I really didn't feel like doing a bastion or having to go back to the original nether portal, so we're going to get some obsidian instead, and for that we need diamonds. So we dig down even deeper. I'm really not looking forward to having to go back to the surface. And after digging for a bit, we quickly find a mineshaft and we immediately see some diamonds, so let's get them. Please don't be a one vein. Damn it. Then within just a few minutes we find some more in a chest. Yeah, my diamond luck was a bit goofy in this run. After that we get attacked by a spider. Not cool. And after a bit of digging, we break our pickaxe. Okay, well, I'll take that. Let's go. Alright, that took a lot less time than I expected, but now that we have the diamonds, we can go back to the surface. So we start breaking blocks and placing boats, and things didn't really go as planned. Oh, more diamonds. Alright. No way. No. 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 Stop it! I just want to go back to the surface, please. I have 21 diamonds. Alright, let's really go back to the surface now. Alright, after this crazy diamond luck, I heard some lava on the way back up. So we find it, and we collect the obsidian we need. Okay, we're good to go. And after all of this, we finally go back to the surface for real. And we can move on to the next step, finding a village. As I said earlier, I don't feel confident doing a bastion with our movement limitations, so we're going to trade villagers instead for the ender pearls. Since we're going to boat hop for a while, I also grabbed a bunch of food on the way, and after about an hour of wandering around the plains, we do find the village. Then we sleep the night away, and we go back to our adventures. Wait. No. No, 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 no. No, don't it, no. Don't, no, 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 no. Please let me place it. I actually got trapped by a villager. I don't want to kill him. Well, I guess there's only one solution now. Good thing we found an Enderman on the way. Okay, I did not expect to get trapped by a villager, and now that we're out of ender pearls, we'll have to be very careful to not let that happen again. So we lock down every villager we can find to avoid this issue as much as possible. Hey, you! Stop! It's the boat police. You're not allowed to move. Have a nice day. Okay, now that the village is mostly safe, we take a little house and start arranging it. There we go. If you hear my house making villager noises, it's normal. Don't worry, everything's fine. Anyway, now we can continue where we left, and since we have so many diamonds, we'll start by making a bit of equipment. Okay, pretty good. Now that our equipment is ready, it's time to get those emeralds. So we'll have to cut a bunch of trees. And by a bunch of trees, I mean an entire forest. Okay, by now we probably have enough wood. But on the way back to the village, I found a few chickens. And that reminded me that we will need to use some eggs for a little trick. So I left my inventory in a chest, trapped myself with the chicken, and since it was already 2 AM, I decided to leave the game running while I went to sleep. So see you tomorrow. Okay, that should be more than enough eggs, so now we can go back to the village. No, 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 do not, no! Okay, I did forget that leaving the game open would make monsters spawn, but now that we know about it, we get our equipment back and safely return to the village. No, 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 no. Why did I do that? Finally. Alright, after those few misadventures, we do come back to the village, and we trade all of our sticks for pearls. And I did go a little bit overkill on the wood, so since we have extra emeralds and more than enough pearls, I decided to also take 2 stacks of arrows from the Fletcher. And after a few more preparations, we have everything we need for the rest of the game, so we can finally move on to the Nether. So we build the Nether portal. Finally a challenge where building the Nether portal doesn't take forever. And we go in. And we have a problem. When you enter the Nether, your camera is inside the Nether portal block, which prevents us from placing a boat. And since we can't place water in the nether, we can't break the portal that way either. And that's where the eggs come into play. When we throw an egg, it has a chance of spawning a baby chicken, and if we spawn enough of them, they're eventually going to push us away from the portal, to the point where we can now place a boat, allowing us to escape this portal prison. Now we can start to explore the nether, and we instantly get welcomed by a ghast. Hello. Anyway, there's not much to do in the nether apart from killing blazes, so after a bunch of boat hopping and throwing a few pearls, we find the fortress and get immediately welcomed by some blazes. But this time we have a bow, which makes things a lot easier. Man, it feels so good to have a bow. What does not feel good though is having to spend 20 minutes hopping around in a boat to find the blaze spawner. But once we found it, getting the blaze rods was pretty trivial with how overkill our equipment is, and within just a few minutes, we're ready to head back to the overworld. Okay, now that we're back in the overworld, it's time to search for the stronghold. So we craft the Eyes of Ender, and we get going. After exploring for a while, we find a dark forest, and this biome is extremely convenient for getting wood, so we make a little boat bridge, and we collect a little bit of wood. Okay, now that we have a bunch of wood, it's time to go back to finding the stronghold. And there's some bad news. No. Not through the ocean. Okay, the eye went in front of this ocean, and there's basically only two ways we can cross it. Either we dig under the water and slowly make our way to the other side from there, or we can make a really long boat bridge. And one of those options is a lot more fun, so we're going to do that. First, we free up some space by putting our items in a chest, and then, after crafting a lot of boats, we slowly place all of them on the water, and once we're out of boats, we go back the other way around. No, don't tell me that. No, come on. Well, I guess there's only one solution. And then we just have to craft some more boats and repeat this process until we reach the other side. And since we're going to craft a lot of boats, we want as much inventory space as possible, so we'll have to get rid of some useless items. Now we can continue building our boat bridge. Finally! Now, at this point, I only had one fear, which is that the stronghold could very well be in the middle of the ocean, which would mean we did all of that for nothing. So it's time to check. Okay, it's over there. Good. What? It went here, I think. I'm feeling it exactly here. Let's go! My calculations were correct. Alright, now we need to find the portal room, and doing this made me realize three things. Firstly, I should really learn this trick. It moves around, but I have no idea. Secondly, I hate those stairs. And thirdly, I'm still bad at finding portal rooms. Oh wait, here? I have no idea what I'm doing. Finally! Alright, now that we found the portal room, we set up a little base with a bed, and it's time to go to the end. And originally I thought about killing the dragon with beds, but during my practice runs I quickly realized that was not good enough at one cycling to do it without moving. And since we have a bow, we can simply use that instead. So we craft a few boats, And it's time to fight! And that's it. We enter the portal and finish the game. So, is it possible to beat Minecraft without moving? Yeah. I'll just wait here, I guess.